Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
I think this is pretty funny. A couple of years ago, I did an episode where I talked to somebody that was renting out her basement to traveling nurses. Daniel, you were listening to that episode and you thought this has to be a scam. There's no way that you can make that much money renting out your basement. You looked into it a little bit and you decided you were going to give it a shot. So tell us, is renting to traveling nurses a big scam?
Okay, yeah, it definitely is not a scam. Actually, I'm making a good profit on my investment by renting a furnished house on traveling nurses.
Daniel wasn't 100% convinced that it was going to work, but it just seemed too lucrative to not try it out. So Daniel bought a rental property. He rented it out to traveling nurses. Everything worked out for him, and so he decided to buy a second property. When he saw that worked, he bought a third property. So now he's got 3 properties that he rents out to traveling nurses. And on the podcast today, we're going to talk about his experience. We'll see what he's buying, how everything's been working out, and we'll go over the numbers. Joining us on the show today from Lexington, Kentucky is Daniel Scarvina. We'll take a really quick break. We'll thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Daniel. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property. And when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com. NMLS 42056.
Rental Income Podcast.
Daniel, did you own any rentals before you started doing the travel nurse rentals?
Actually, yes. Before I started renting my properties furnished, so I already had 3 properties. So I kind of have some idea what's like behind having a rental property.
And how many travel nurse rentals do you have right now?
So far, I had 3. Okay. I just finished one this month. So it's going great. I wish I would have more houses.
Now, we've talked about travel nurses and how the whole program works a couple of times, but for someone that's maybe not familiar with this niche, can you explain to us how the travel nurses work?
It depends on the person. So some nurses, they stay for either 2 months or 3 months. In my case, I have one nurse that she have been with me almost a year, and the second one that going to move into my property, plan to stay until the end of the year. So it changed from time to time. It depends on the person.
So they come in town and they need a place to live. Like they're from somewhere else that they come in because there's a shortage of nurses. They work for 3 months and they need a place to live when they're in town.
Yes, that's correct. The majority of them, they are moving into the town because there is a shortage of nurses. Some of them, they just love the adventure to travel around the country. Sure. And they just need a clean, safe place to stay. You don't have to be super fancy. So they just want to feel safe where they're staying.
It's a real interesting concept that it's kind of right in the middle of I guess, some people call it a midterm rental, where it's right in the middle of a traditional rental where you've got a tenant that moves in and stays for a year or longer, and an Airbnb where you get more money, but it's constantly turning over. So you get a nurse in there and they're staying for 3 months, maybe a year, and you're making a lot more money than you would with a regular rental, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I love this concept is because if I would go the traditional way, uh, yes, I can have someone stay for 12 months, but my return on my investment it was not gonna be as much as getting right now
Right.
by renting to travel nurses. And another thing about traveling nurses is just that versus Airbnb is that I don't have to do any cleanup or I
Right.
don't have to every week or weekend trying to find a cleaning crew so they can go out there and get the house ready for the next guest. So
Right.
basically, I just furnish the house, give it everything that they need on the kitchen, and they take over from that point on. So it's just less headache.
Yeah, it's not much work and you're getting that premium. So give us some numbers. Like so dollar wise, if you were to rent out one of your properties on a regular long-term lease versus a travel nurse, how much extra are you making per month by doing this?
I get right around $900
$900
extra.
extra. That's incredible. Wow. That's a really big difference. And it's not a lot of work. Like you're not constantly having to deal with issues or like you basically get them in there and then that's it.
When I do the renovation, I just do a full rehab. So I put everything brand new at the house. I fix all the plumbing and the electrical. Everything that needs to be done, I just get it done right up front. That way, I don't have to worry about that something gonna go wrong, and I have to go back and fix
Right.
it. So
How do the nurses as tenants compare to your regular traditional tenants?
well, the difference between the nurses versus the long-term rental is that the nurses, we know that they're making significant wages, so they get paid pretty well. So in most cases, they even willing to pay everything up front. Like the traditional way, it's just it is much. Scary in some way because we don't know what's going to happen with the economy, and some of them might lose their job, and then they're going to make it harder on them to
Right.
keep up with the rent.
Right.
So
Okay.
by
So
doing this, by renting to travel nurses, it's just less worth, and then you get better quality resident in your
yeah.
property. They taking care of your property.
Now, the idea of the travel nurse is it's really interesting to me, and I really want to do this. Um, and so the nurses are coming in. Like, do you need to get, if they're traveling by themselves, like they probably need like just one bedroom. So, like, do you just buy like a one bedroom, one bath property?
No, I don't buy. When I purchase a property, I don't purchase it based thinking on that I'm going to rent it to travel nurses. I purchase a property because I also am thinking that at some point I'm going to sell that property, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to have any problems selling
Mm-hmm.
that property in case that I have an emergency that I need to sell any of my property. So. I set my criteria looking for 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and that's what our
Okay.
search for.
So 3 bedroom, but so the nurse is just using one of the bedrooms.
Yes, most of the time it is only one person, but what I have found that there are like friends that they're traveling together and they need like two bedroom. And
Okay.
if you have 2 bathroom, that's even better. If you only have one bathroom, that's just kind of uh, more difficult to increase your wages because most people are looking for like two bedroom, two bath.
So then are you renting it by the room to the nurses or is it just like a flat rate that you're renting the entire rental unit?
Yeah. You have the option to rent it by the room or rent the entire unit. In my case, I set a flat fee for the entire unit, whether
Okay.
it's a one nurse or more. So
Okay.
I just set the price, and I haven't had no problem finding someone that want
Right.
to rent a property.
Now, you mentioned that you're using Furnish Finder to find the tenants, right? Or to find the nurses?
Yes, that's how
Okay.
I started. That's how I was able to locate my first nurse. But what I'm doing now, I've been talking to the nurses, and I'm letting them know that I will have a property available a certain time, and if a day or someday, if they know anybody they're looking for a property, then they're free to reach out to me, and that's how I have found my last two nurses. So I haven't been able to advertise on Furnace Finder because I don't have the need at this point.
Right. So there's just incredible demand.
Yes, that's what I have been, for what I heard from the nurses, that they say that they having hard time finding a property, and the downside on their end is that because they don't plan ahead when
Hmm.
they're gonna go.
Right.
They only have a very short window in between when they find out, okay, the contract was not gonna be renewed, and then they have to go to different city, and then they go out there and find a property. Finding a rental, a furnished rental, in this hot market is very difficult. If they find something, they're gonna overpay because
Hmm.
there's too much demand.
Right. Now, you probably don't need to branch out at all. It sounds like nurses are a great niche, but have you thought about maybe seeing if maybe some corporations in your area needed some kind of midterm rental, or even insurance companies, like for people that maybe had their house burned down or flooded? Have you thought about doing that, or do you just not need to?
Absolutely. That's the another thing that I've been working on. I've been doing research on that. There is also a lot of demand, not just for travel nurses. With the pandemic, now most people are willing to work from home, and there are people that are professional that they're traveling to another areas, and they also need a furnished house. So same thing. Like nurses, they're there for like it can be a month or 3 months.
Hmm.
Or another thing that I've been doing, me personal, I contacted my insurance company, and I let them know what I'm doing in case that they one of their clients is needed, or their customer needed one of their need a furnished house. Then
Right.
they can let me know because I may have something available.
Right.
So it is good to diversify because there is demand for that out there
Yeah.
too.
I mean, I think it's just a good idea, even if you end up renting to the nurses. I think it's a good idea to have other things going on, because that could help you charge more rent. I mean, the more demand you have, the more you're going to be able to charge. So I think that's really smart. Well, let's take a look at one of your deals here and see how the numbers work. So let's talk about the first property you bought. So how much did you pay for it?
I pay 153,000.
Okay, and tell me about the property. Like, how many bedrooms and baths?
This property, it was it is 2.5 bathroom and 3 bedroom. And the good thing about this property, it is in a neighborhood that is well taken care of. So, and also the house is not that about 20 years old, something like that.
Okay.
So it didn't need it that much work.
Okay. Okay. How much did you spend on the rehab?
On the rehab, I spent right around 7,000.
7,000. So was that like mainly just paint and carpet and maybe appliances?
Actually, the appliances were already there. They were about a year old.
Okay.
So I didn't have to put any, I don't have to spend money on appliances. I did put granite countertop. It's one thing that I've been doing with my furnished rental. property. So I've been putting like beautiful granite countertop, and the cost of that is not much
Right.
different compared
Yeah.
to laminate countertop.
It's really not. Yeah, the price of granite has really come down, and I think you get a big wow factor. So I think that's a good idea for
Yeah,
one of
and
these
also
properties.
what I do, I use the same material in all my properties. I use the LBD luxury vinyl uh, flooring, and the leftover I can use it for my next project. I use the same paint,
Okay.
so the leftover I can
Yeah.
also use it for the next project. So that way, you can save you money during the
Yeah.
rehab.
Okay, so with the purchase of 153 and then you put 7 into the property, so you're all in at right about 160, and then you had to furnish the property. So how much did you spend to furnish this property?
I spent right around $4,000. That include
Okay.
everything: the furnitures, the cookware that you need, and the kitchen, stuff for the bathroom, everything.
Okay. And then tell me about your mortgage. How much did you put down on this property?
I put down 20%.
Okay. Okay.
And my mortgage is 855 per month.
Okay. And that includes taxes and insurance?
Yeah,
Okay.
because the way how my bank operates is that we paid everything to them, so everything is included: the taxes, insurance, and the
Okay.
mortgage, everything. So 855 per month.
855. And then you've got to pay all the utilities, right? For the
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
much do
So
utilities come
all
out
the
to be?
utilities are on my name. So my electric bill is around $80 per month.
Okay.
Water right around uh, the most 40 $40,
Okay.
and then just sewer. So
And then do you provide internet and like cable TV too?
I only provide the internet. I do not provide cable because they just don't need it. Really,
Yeah.
I asked them if
Yeah.
they prefer cable, and they say no. I just do streaming. So I just make sure to buy a smart TV, like a Roku TV, so they can uh, watch their Netflix. So it just
Okay.
no need it.
Okay. All right. So the mortgage is 855, and then that $80, did that include the internet or is that just for the utilities?
No, that $80 just for the electric,
Okay.
56 for the internet, and about 40 for water.
Okay. So you're right around $1,000 a month
Yes.
for all the expenses. And then how much is this property rented out for?
As right now, I'm renting for 1,900
1900.
per
Okay.
month.
Wow. Okay. So you've got a $900 spread there. Now, what do you do with that money? So after you pay the utilities and your mortgage, and you've got your $900 left over, like do you set money aside for repairs, or like what are you doing with that 900?
Basically, the profit just go right back into the business account. So I'm not using that money to live on it.
Okay.
So I just put it right back into the business. And if something comes up, like I have to do a repair and another property, or in that property, so I just can write a check from
You've
that
got the
account.
money
So
there. Okay. All right. So you're not taking anything out. All that money is just there, just in case anything comes up on one of your travel nurse properties or one of your regular rentals. You've just got a cash cushion there
yes,
to put
yes,
aside.
that's correct.
That's great. Now with the nurses, when they come in, obviously they've been screened by the company. But do you do any kind of screening on top of that to make sure that they're going to be good, like any of the traditional tenants, the traditional screening that we would do as landlords?
At first I did, but and then I realized that it is just not needed for it. So what I do, I request a copy of their contract. That can tell me how long they're gonna be in the city. Um, and and I request a copy of the pay stub, and who do they work for, and they provide the contact information on the company that they work for, and then I call them to verify, or if they already had been living in the area, I request a contact information from the previous landlord, and I just call just to check, make sure they are who they say they are.
And you haven't had any problems? All the nurses have been good tenants?
Actually, I have not have any problem. My last one, I even have a letter of recommendation from another landlord, so that made me feel much better. And I contact and I verify. And I also verify the license. Make sure the license they're active. You can go on your depend where state you live. So that information is public. You can just Google it, Northern Board of Kentucky, and you can just type the name and tell you whether the license is active or not.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I think probably every state has a website like that where you can make sure they're active. Well, I just think that this is such a great idea. Is there any advice that you would give me? Because I really think I'm going to do this. If I'm looking for a property to turn into a travel nurse property, how close do I need to be to the hospital?
See, that's interesting and question, because I always thought what I heard from other people saying like it has to be close to the hospital, and what I find out that's not true. They're willing to travel out to 20 to 30 miles away from their workplace. So I will recommend to buy a house and area where you can where you can see yourself living on, where you can see yourself walking 9 o'clock, on in the neighborhood. So I think that by finding a property in that type of neighborhood, you shouldn't have no problem.
If you want to learn more about renting to traveling nurses, I've done a couple of different interviews with landlords that are following this strategy. If you want to hear their stories, I've got links to those interviews on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 392. I'd like to thank today's sponsor for making this episode possible. It's Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. Chaley is a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. With interest rates going up, it's making it a little bit tougher to make deals work. And if you're looking for a way to lower your payment, Chaley has a couple of different options for ways that you can get lower payments on your rental deals. If you want to learn more, or you want to set up a time to talk to Chaley personally, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. I've got a bonus episode for you this week. It'll be out on Thursday, and I will talk to you then. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.